I'm going to read. If everybody in the back on the benches could maybe come a little closer on chairs. All right. So, this is from Krishna book. Krishna book was written by Srila Prabhupada shortly after coming to America in the mid-60s. He was already translating Srimad Bhagavatam, but he was advanced in age and he feared he might not live long enough to translate the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So he transliterated it into prose English, into everyday English, and it still has everything in it, including all the philosophy. So now I will read most everything about Lord Balarama. I'm not asking for silence for me, I don't deserve that, but for the subject matter, Lord Balarama, Krishna book, I can have your silence, please. Thank you very much. So when Devaki became pregnant for the second time, a plenary expansion of Krishna, known as Ananta, appeared within her womb. Devaki was overwhelmed both with jubilation and lamentation. She was joyful, for she could understand that Lord Vishnu had taken shelter within her womb. But at the same time, she was sorry that as soon as her child would come out, Kamsa would kill him. At the same time, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, being compassionate upon the fearful condition of the Yadus due to atrocities committed by Kamsa, ordered the appearance of his Yoga Maya, or his internal potency. Krishna is the Lord of the universe, but he is especially the Lord of the Yadu dynasty. The Lord declared to Yoga Maya that his plenary expansion, Ananta Shesha, was within the womb of Devaki. On account of being forcibly attracted to the womb of Rohini, he would be known as Shankarshan, and would be the source of all spiritual power, or Bala, by which one should be able to attain the highest bliss of life, which is called Ramana. Therefore, the plenary portion Ananta would be known after his appearance either as Shankarshan or Balarama. So now they're going to have the naming Krishna and Balarama are now with their parents, and they're going to conduct the naming ceremony. So the family priest, the Gargamuni, so he was eagerly requested by Nanda Maharaj. He performed the name-giving ceremony as secretly as possible in the cow herd of Nanda Maharaj, in the cow shed of Nanda Maharaj. He informed Nanda Maharaj that Balarama, the son of Rohini, would be very pleasing to his family members and relatives, and therefore would be called Rama. In the future, he would be extraordinarily strong, and therefore would be called Balarama. Gargamuni said further, because your family and the family of the Yadus are so intimately connected and attractive, therefore his name will be Shankarshan. This means that Gargamuni awarded three names to the son of Rohini, namely Balaram, Shankarshan, and Baladev. But he carefully did not disclose the fact that Balaram also appeared in the womb of Devaki and was subsequently transferred to the womb of Rohini. Krishna and Balaram are real brothers, being originally sons of Devaki. A short time after this incident, both Balarama and Krishna began to crawl on their hands and knees. They were babies. When they were crawling like that, they pleased their mothers. The bells tied to their waist and ankles sounded fascinating, and they would move around very easily. Sometimes, just like ordinary children, they would be frightened by others and would immediately hurry to their mothers for protection. Both Krishna and Balarama were so restless that their mothers, Yashoda and Rohini, would try to protect them from cows, bulls, monkeys, water, fire, and birds while they were executing their household duties. Always being anxious to protect the children and to execute their duties, they were not very tranquil. In a very short time, both Krishna and Balarama began to stand up and slightly move on their legs. When Krishna and Balarama began to walk, other friends of the same age joined them, and together they began to give the highest transcendental pleasure to the devotees, specifically to Mother Yashoda and Rohini. At this time, Krishna and Balarama were given charge of the calves. The first responsibility of the cowherd boys was to take care of the little calves. The boys are trained in this from the very beginning of their childhood. So, along with other little cowherd boys, Krishna and Balarama went into the pasturing ground and took charge of the calves and played with their playmates. While taking charge of the calves, sometimes the two brothers played on their flutes, and sometimes they played with amalaki flutes and baal flutes, just like small children play with balls. Sometimes they danced and made tinkling sounds with their ankle balls. Sometimes they made themselves into bulls and cows by covering themselves with blankets. Thus, Krishna and Balarama played. The two brothers used to imitate the sounds of bulls and cows and play bullfighting. Sometimes they used to imitate the sounds of various animals and birds. In this way, they enjoyed their childhood pastime, apparently like ordinary, mundane children. After traveling a very long distance, besides being local, they are traveling around different towns. After traveling a very long distance, the brothers pretended to become very tired. To mitigate their weariness, they climbed up a very high mountain, several miles high above sea level. The mountain, also called Pravarshana Mountain, Pravarshana due to constant rain. Excuse me, I didn't put this in the proper context. At this point now, Krishna and Balarama have grown to adult age, or as old as they ever look, 16. And so they're being pursued by somebody. This is called Krishna the Ranchor, when he decided to quit the military field. He just didn't feel like fighting, so he left the battlefield. And his enemies, Arachandra, thought Krishna and Balarama were afraid. So, after traveling for a long distance, the brothers pretended to become very tired. To mitigate their weariness, they climbed up a very high mountain several miles above sea level. The mountain was called Pravarshana due to constant rain. The peak was always covered with clouds sent by Indra. Arachandra took it for granted that the two brothers were afraid of his military power and had hidden themselves at the top of the mountain. First, he tried to find them, searching for a long time. But when he failed, he decided to trap and kill them by setting fires around the peak. He therefore surrounded the peak with oil and set it on fire. As the blaze spread more and more, Krishna and Balaram jumped from the top of the mountain down to the ground, a distance of 88 miles. Thus, while the peak was burning up, Krishna and Balaram escaped without being seen by Jarasandha. Jarasandha concluded that the two brothers had been burned to ashes and that there was no need of further fighting. Thinking himself successful in his efforts, he left the city of Mathura and returned to his home in the kingdom of Magadha. Gradually, Krishna and Balaram reached the city of Dwarka, which was surrounded on all sides by the sea. Following this, Sri Balaram married Revati, daughter of King Rayavata, ruler of the Ananda province. Another adventure, Krishna and Balaram looking for the Shamataka jewel. Somebody stole the Shamataka jewel, and they're looking for it. And Balaram suggests the jewel might have been kept in custody of the man in Dwarka. It's now they're looking outside Dwarka with no success. So Krishna, you better return and search it out. Sri Balaram expressed his desire to remain in Mipilia city, near to where they were searching. He wanted to remain in Mipilia city for some days because he enjoyed an intimate friendship with the king. Therefore, Krishna returned to Dwarka and Balarama entered the city of Mipilia. In spite of this divine voice, Lord Balaram visits Vrindavan. Lord Balaram became very anxious to see his father and mother, Maharaj Nanda and Yashoda. Therefore, he started for Vrindavan on a chariot with great enthusiasm. The inhabitants of Vrindavan had been anxious to see Krishna and Balaram for a very long time. When Lord Balaram returned to Vrindavan, all the cowherd boys and the gopis had grown up, but still, on his arrival, they all embraced him, and Balaram embraced them in reciprocation. After this, he came before Maharaj Nanda and Yashoda, and offered his respectful obeisances unto them. In response, Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj offered their blessings unto him. They addressed him as Jagadishvara, or the Lord of the universe who maintains everything. The reason for this was that both Krishna and Balaram maintained all living entities, and yet Nanda and Yashoda were put into such difficulties on account of their absence. Feeling like this, they embraced Balaram, and seating him on their laps, began their perpetual crying, wetting Balaram with their tears. Lord Balaram then offered his respectful obeisances to the elderly cowherd men, and accepted the obeisances of the younger cowherd men. Thus, according to their different ages and relationships, Balaram exchanged feelings of friendship with them. He shook hands with those who were his equals in age and friendship, and with loud laughing embraced each one of them. After being received by the cowherd men and boys, the gopis and King Nanda and Yashoda, Lord Balaram, after being received by the cowherd men and boys, the gopis and King Nanda and Yashoda, Lord Balaram sat down, feeling satisfied, and they all surrounded him. First, Lord Balaram inquired from them about their welfare, and then, not having seen him for such a long time, they began to ask him different questions. The inhabitants of Vrindavan had sacrificed everything for Krishna, simply being captivated by the lotus eyes of the Lord. Because of their great desire to love Krishna, they never desired anything like elevation to the heavenly planes or merging into the effulgence of Brahman to become one of the absolute truth. They were not even interested in enjoying a life of opulence, but were satisfied in living a simple life in the village as cowherd men. They were always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna and did not desire any personal benefit, and they were all so much in love with him that in his absence their voices faltered when they began to inquire from Balarama. First, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Maharaj inquired, "My dear Balarama, are our friends like Vasudeva and others in the family doing well? Now you and Krishna are grown up, married men with children. In the happiness of family life, you sometimes remember your poor father and mother, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Devi. It is very good news that the most sinful King Kamsa had been killed by you, and that our friends like Vasudeva and the others who had been harassed by him have now been relieved. It is also very good news that both you and Krishna defeated Jarasandha and Kalyavana, who now is dead, and that you are now living in a fortified residence in Dwarka." When the gopis arrived, Lord Balaram glanced over them with loving eyes. Being overjoyed, the gopis, who had so long been mortified on account of Krishna's and Balaram's absence, began to ask about the welfare of the two brothers. They specifically asked Balaram whether Krishna was enjoying his life, surrounded by the enlightened women of Dwarkapuri. Does he sometimes remember his father Nanda and his mother Yashoda and the other friends with whom he so intimately behaved while he was in Vrindavan? Does Krishna have any plans to come here to see his mother Yashoda? And does he remember us gopis who are now pitiably bereft of his company? Krishna might have forgotten us in the midst of the cultured women of Dwarka, but as far as we are concerned, we are still remembering him by collecting flowers and sewing them into garlands. When he does not come, however, we simply pass our time by crying. If only he would come here and accept these garlands that we have made. Dear Lord Balaram, descendant of Dashara, you know that we would give up everything for Krishna's friendship. Even in great distress, one cannot give up the connection of family members. But although it might be impossible for others, we gave up our fathers, mothers, sisters, and relatives without caring at all about our renunciation. Then all of a sudden, Krishna renounced us and went away. He broke off our intimate relationship without any serious consideration and left for a foreign country. He was so clever and cunning that he manufactured very nice words. He said, "My dear gopis, please do not worry. The service that you have rendered me is impossible for me to repay. After all, we are women, so how could we disbelieve him? Now we can understand that his sweet words were simply for cheating us." So now I'll do the pastime of Balarama fighting the Gita gorilla. While Sukadeva Goswami continued to speak on the transcendental pastimes and characteristics of Lord Krishna, King Parikshit, upon hearing him, became more and more enthusiastic and wanted to hear further. Sukadeva Goswami next narrated the story of the Gita, the gorilla who was killed by Lord Balaram. This gorilla was a great friend of Bhaumasura's, or Narakasura's, who was killed by Krishna. In connection with this, his kidnapping 16,000 princesses from all over the world. Vivida was the minister of King Sugriva. His brother, Mahinda, was also a very powerful guerrilla king. When Vivida, gorilla, heard the story of his friend Bulbasaur being killed by Lord Krishna, he planned to create mischief throughout the country in order to avenge the death of Bulbasaur. His first business was to set fires in villages, towns, and industrial and mining places, as well as the residential quarters of the mercantile men who were busy dairy farming and protecting cows. Sometimes he would uproot a big mountain and tear it to pieces. In this way he created great disturbances all over the country, especially in the province of Katwar. The city of Dwarka was situated in this Katwar province, and because Lord Krishna used to live in this city, Vivida specifically made it his target of disturbance. Vivida was as powerful as 10,000 elephants. Sometimes he would go to the seashore, and with his powerful hands, he would create so much disturbance in the sea that he would overflood the neighboring cities and villages. Often he would go to the hermitages of great saintly persons and sages and cause great disturbance by smashing their beautiful gardens and orchards. Not only did he create disturbances in that way, but sometimes he would pass urine and stool on the sacred sacrificial arena. He would thus pollute the whole atmosphere and also kidnap both men and women, taking them away from their residential places to the caves of the mountains. Putting them within the caves, he would close the entrances with large chunks of stone, like the Brunham insect, which arrests and carries away many flies and other insects and puts them within the holes of the trees where he lives. He thus regularly defined the law and order of the country, the law and order of the country. Not only that, but he would sometimes pollute the female members of many aristocratic families by raping them. While creating such great disturbances all over, as you can see, is a demon. While creating such great disturbances all over the country, sometimes he heard very sweet musical sounds from the Raibata mountains. And so he entered that mountainous region. There, he saw that Lord Balarama was present in the midst of many beautiful young girls, enjoying their company while engaged in singing and dancing. He became captivated by the beautiful features of Lord Balarama's body, each and every part of which was very beautiful, decorated as he was with a garland of lotus flowers. Similarly, all the young girls present, dressed and garlanded with flowers, exhibited much beauty. Lord Balarama seemed to be fully intoxicated from drinking the Varuni beverage, and his eyes appeared to be rolling in a drunken state. This is only an appearance. Lord Balarama appeared just like the king of the elephants in the midst of many she-elephants. This gorilla, by the name of Vivida, could climb up on the trees and jump from one branch to another. Sometimes he would jerk the branches, creating a particular type of sound, kila, so that Lord Balarama was greatly distracted from the pleasing atmosphere. Sometimes Vivida would come before the women and exhibit different types of caricatures. By nature, young women are apt to enjoy everything with laughter and joking, and when the gorilla came before them, they did not take him seriously, but simply laughed at him. However, the gorilla was so rude that even in the presence of Balarama, he began to show the lower part of his body to the women, and sometimes he would come forward to show his teeth while moving his eyebrows. He disrespected the women, even in the presence of Balarama. Lord Balarama's name suggests that he is not only very powerful, but that he takes pleasure in exhibiting extraordinary strength. So, he took a stone and threw it at Vivida. The gorilla, however, artfully avoided being struck by the stone. In order to insult Balarama, the gorilla took away the earthen pot in which the Varuni was kept. Vivida, being thus intoxicated with his limited strength, began to tear off all the valuable clothes worn by Balarama and the accompanying young girls. He was so puffed up that he thought that Balarama could not do anything to chastise him, and he continued to offend Balarama and his companions. When Lord Balarama saw the disturbances created by the gorilla and heard that he had already performed many mischievous activities all over the country, he became very angry and decided to kill him. Immediately he took his club in his hand. The gorilla could understand that now Balarama was going to attack him. In order to counteract Balarama, he immediately uprooted a big oak tree with great force, and he came and struck at Lord Balarama's head. Lord Balarama, however, immediately caught hold of the big tree and remained undisturbed, just like a great mountain. To retaliate, he took his club by the name of Sunanda and began to hit the gorilla with it. The gorilla's head was severely injured. Currents of blood flowed from his head with great force, but the stream of blood enhanced his beauty like a stream of liquid manganese coming out of a great mountain. The striking of Balarama's club did not even slightly disturb him. On the contrary, he immediately uprooted another big tree, and after clipping off his leaves, he began to strike Balarama's head with it. But Balarama, with the help of his club, tore the tree to pieces. Since the gorilla was very angry, he took another tree in his hands and began to strike Lord Balarama's body. Again, Lord Balarama tore the tree to pieces, and the fighting continued. Each time the gorilla would bring out a big tree to strike Balarama, Lord Balarama would tear the tree to pieces by the striking of his club. The gorilla, Vivida, would clutch another tree from another direction and again attack Balarama the same way. As a result of this continuous fighting, the forest became treeless. When no more trees were available, Vivida took help from the hills and threw large pieces of stone, like rainfall, upon the body of Balarama. Lord Balarama, also in a great sporting mood, began to smash those big pieces of stone into mere pebbles. The gorilla, being bereft of all trees and stone slabs, now stood before him and waved his strong fist. Then, with great force, he began to beat the chest of Lord Balarama with his fists. This time, Lord Balarama became most angry. Since the gorilla was striking him with his hands, he would not strike back with his own weapon, the club or the plow. Simply with his fist, he began to strike the collarbone of the gorilla. This striking proved to be fatal to Vivida, who immediately vomited blood and fell unconscious upon the ground. When the gorilla fell, it appeared that all hills and forests tottered. So many activities of Lord Balarama. He is all-powerful. Lord Balarama is the original Vishnu. Therefore, anyone remembering these pastimes of Lord Balarama in the morning and evening will certainly become a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus his life will become successful in all respects. Thank you for your attention. All glories to Lord Balarama. Lord Balarama Ji. If you'd like to go in the back to our dining hall, we're now serving prasadam. Those of you not familiar with prasadam, it is vegetarian foodstuffs cooked for Lord Krishna with love and devotion. And it's pretty good. So you can go in the back and enjoy a nice meal. Hare Krishna.